It's only been a few days since DC revealed that they're shitting on Aquaman with a horrible poster, and they've already shown us that they're not done shitting on Aquaman. They haven't had their fill of their scat fetish, so now they're shitting on Teen Titans. They released this Titans trailer, and it's abominable. It's abysmal. Porn parodies are more true to the source material than this one. It is just so fucking bad, so I figured, let's watch it, and let's talk about it. The trailer genuinely opens with a stock sound effect. That was a stock scream. Incredible. Absolutely incredible.
Where's Batman? Fuck Batman.
Oh, yes. The Edge. Fuck Batman. Right out of my Teen Titans fanfiction. Oh, baby. DC's so dark and edgy. I'd only planned on looking like this for that one clip with the fuck Batman, just to kind of poke fun at how laughably edgy the line was and just the overall tone of the trailer for Titans. But I realized I don't have a way of getting the lip gloss or nail polish off. I guess it's a lot harder than I expected, so I'm assuming when girls wear shit like this, they expect to be buried in it, because it just doesn't come off at all. So I'm just gonna finish the video looking like this. I look like I'm about to go to a fucking Marilyn Manson concert. I look like that old Garugamesh meme. You remember that guy? I look like him. I look like a Hot Topic vampire who ran out of blood to suck, so now I'm settling for assholes to suck. I look like I took Halloween as a chance to express myself, but I didn't really know how, but I still want to go out and trick or treat. I look like I'm just one more Pierce the Veil song away from crying into an open diary while jerking off. I look like Kevin Spacey's wet dream. Now getting back on track to DC's latest dog shit wrapped in cow shit, every single sound effect during that fight was a stock sound effect. You can find all of them on YouTube. They're right at your fingertips. They're right fucking there for you to just YouTube and use. Some of them I've even heard in old school video games. Like, I'm pretty sure there's some GoldenEye sound effects sprinkled in this trailer. I can't really remember because it's been like 10 years since I played GoldenEye, but someone can confirm, and I'm sure I'm right in saying that it's some GoldenEye sounds up in this bitch.
There's something evil inside of me.
Yeah, honestly, Raven, I think there's something evil inside of the DC headquarters as well. There is some man up there, some sinister mad scientist that's greenlighting these stinkers and pushing them through the pipeline. I honestly feel like maybe it's a Marvel secret agent, like a super spy that works for Marvel but is doubling as like the head of DC that's just like, yeah guys, check this out. I got them to greenlight a Titans thing, and he says fuck Batman, and it's the grittiest, most laughably awful shit in the world. It's gonna be amazing. Marvel's gonna skyrocket, boys. Don't worry, I got you covered.
You're scared, I get it, but you can control it.
If I didn't know this was a Teen Titans deal, I would have never guessed that was supposed to be Starfire. And I'm not saying it needs to look like Starfire, because I'm of the firm belief that you don't need to carbon copy your source material to make something great out of it. I actually prefer when they deviate a bit, but you still need to be able to recognize the characters, and it needs to, you know, emulate the same ideals and motives that the characters had from the source material. Here, there's just no way anyone would look at that character and think, Starfire. They'd look at that and think, generic flamethrower hand-shooting superhero from whatever indie comics are being tossed around Tumblr at the time.
Sometimes, when I feel the darkness, it feels good.
Oh yeah, you're preaching the choir. The darkness, it feels so good. The shadows within the shadows. The nighttime that your parents warned you about because there's bad shit in that nighttime sometimes. Oh, the darkness. God, I love DC's gritty dark tones. Fuck, it's like it's all written by some 9-year-old. Jesus fucking Christ.
I was wrong.
Now they use stock sounds all trailer, and then they finish it off with a combination move right there, like a fucking 1-2 haymaker finishing move right there. That's a Mortal Kombat fatality of stock usage. They not only used a stock scream, they used a stock preset that you can find in Sony Vegas. It's fucking baffling that they would look at that and be like, yeah, that's a cool way to finish it off with that breaking glass. That's a literal stock preset in Sony Vegas. I used to see that in Gears of War montages back in 2008. Holy shit. Needless to say, I'm excited for this web series. I think there's a lot of potential here. If it was 1988, perhaps, somewhere in that general ballpark. Man, DC is really just flinging out these stinkers, and Honestly, as someone who enjoys really bad movies, video games, really just any form of atrocious media, I couldn't be happier with what DC's pumping out. But at the same time, I can't help but feel kind of betrayed, because I've always been a DC guy. I've never really resonated with Marvel characters or any Marvel stories, but I've always enjoyed the DC side of things. And it's such a shame that for some reason they can't get anything right anymore. They used to be the kings. DC used to make the best cartoons. You know, you had Justice League, you had the Teen Titans cartoon, and then now you get this shit. I don't know what happened. DC, if you're watching this, Mr. DC, get your shit together. Let me write your shit, man. I could do a better job than this. Fuck Batman. You kidding me, man? I can't believe that actually made it in there, but I'm happy it did. Can't wait. See ya. When I say Sonic the Hedgehog, undoubtedly the first thing that comes to your head is hardcore fucking. Big sex, big cum. Because that's kind of what Sonic the Hedgehog has become known for now. The fan base has turned Sonic the Hedgehog into like a goddamn sex symbol for degeneracy. And I'm obviously not speaking to everyone who likes Sonic, but on the whole, and I do mean on the asshole, Sonic the Hedgehog has become more about porn than about the games or the property itself. And I've never really cared for the Sonic franchise. I never liked the games all that much. The only ones I actually enjoyed were Sonic Adventure on the Dreamcast and then its sequel on the GameCube. I've never dabbled in the Sonic porn, but I don't think I'd really enjoy it all that much. I don't think it'd awaken a fetish inside me, so I don't really touch that ballpark there. So I'm not a huge Sonic fan, but what I am really excited for now is the new Sonic the Hedgehog live-action movie that comes out next year, because they posted this poster, like a little teaser poster, just to give us a little sneak peek of the wet fart they're cooking up and about to blast in our face in 2019. This is a fucking fantastic disaster of a poster. It's almost as bad as the Aquaman poster that was poorly photoshopped in like 2 hours by a middle school student they released earlier this year. This is something special because the entire fan base of Sonic doesn't like this, and that's very rare. The Sonic fan base is extremely forgiving when it comes to bad games and just kind of abusing them. So to have all of them in one voice kind of band together and say this looks like shit is something special. So give yourselves a big pat on the back, producers of Fast and Furious. I don't know really too much about the project, apart from that it's coming out in 2019 and that this is kind of what it's going to look like. And that's all I need to know to be sold on going to see this shit opening day. I might even buy a fucking fursuit and go to this goddamn thing. I'm super excited for this disaster of a movie. Let's go ahead and look at the poster, break it down, and see all of what makes it so incredibly awful to look at. Now, first of all, this looks like the costume from a porn parody of Sonic the Hedgehog. This genuinely looks like a mascot you'd see standing outside of a used game shop, like a used game mom and pop shop where they have their son dressed up as Sonic the Hedgehog holding up a sign promoting good trade-in deals. This doesn't look like a big-budget Hollywood Sonic the Hedgehog. This looks like a man in a costume that he found at Party City. Just look at the muscularity of this guy. Holy shit, those calves. Those are some human calves. Those aren't hedgehog calves. Sonic the Hedgehog did not have calves. He didn't have muscles. This looks like Sonic the Hedgehog if he was doing daily calf raises of 200 plus pounds for 50 plus reps. Those are some fucking meaty calves right there. Now let's shift gears here and look at the hands. Those hands look like Master Hand from Super Smash Bros. Those look like some diddling hands right there. Got the fucking diddle fingers extended. It's weird. It's horrifying to look at. They don't fit the character at all. It's just a very odd positioning as well. For some reason, his left arm looks like a gorilla's left arm. It's fucking huge in comparison to the other one. And I understand it's closer to the camera, so it'll be a little bigger. But it looks significantly bigger than just an angle problem. And it's a lot hairier. Which is another thing. Why is he so goddamn hairy? He looks like a whole bundle of pubic hair just fell on top of Sonic the Hedgehog. It doesn't fit the character at all. He's CGI'd in the movie too. It's confirmed that they're using a CGI Sonic. So why the fuck are you making him look like a fursuit? What is the point? I understand everything else is going to be live action, so you kind of want to make it seem like it'll fit, but this is not going to fit in any situation. This looks like a chupacabra sighting, if the chupacabra looked like some type of sexual predator. The whole thing's just a complete fucking disaster. Not just the Sonic design, but the whole poster, a whole new speed of hero, is so incredibly silly that I unironically love it. This summer, one hero goes beyond speed. He goes super speed. It's just such a shitty tagline, but I do also like that it also says from the producers of Fast and Furious, so you know this movie's going fast. They're really selling you the idea that this shit is gonna haul ass. It's gonna haul ass, suck ass, and fuck ass, baby. I'm super excited to see this disaster now. This shit is truly looking way past cool. I'm excited to see this fucking movie now. See ya. Marvel is one of the biggest names in entertainment. They've been creating beloved superhero stories for like 100 years now. They have the most well-known and most recognizable characters of all time, second only to Jesus Christ, I imagine. Everyone knows the characters, seen the movies, or read the comic books. I myself am not a big comic book reader. I don't read many stories or anything of that nature. I don't read manga or shit like that. Maybe I'd read more Marvel comics if they had some hentai issues, but overall, I'm just not a huge fan of the medium. Nothing but respect for people that are, though. And yesterday, Marvel Comics made history by announcing something that nobody in the world liked. They announced the New Warriors comic series, which was received with overwhelming sighs and just a thunderous amount of disinterest. I swear to God, there's more hype in a retirement home when someone finally finishes bingo than for New Warriors. People get more excited in a public library when someone drops their pencil on the floor. Nobody was excited about it, and when they released it, a lot of people just felt downright insulted.
So the first character that we're introduced to is Trailblazer Law, and she inherited from her grandfather a magic backpack of divine origin.
So this is the first character we're introduced to in the Marvel New Warriors announcement, their fucking E3 press conference here for New Warriors. This is Trailblazer, and her superpower is having a magic backpack. So she's basically just Dora the Explorer. And the backpack itself looks like Ben 10's Omnitrix if it was butt-fucked by a laser tag vest. Now, I think it's a pretty lame superpower just to have a magic backpack that you pull things out of. Like, I can't really see that being super fun in a crime-fighting situation, you know? We're fighting the supervillain and my teammate's dehydrated, but luckily Trailblazer had a bottle of water in her super backpack. She saved the day. It's just, that's not really interesting from a superpower perspective, but there's nothing inherently silly or wrong about it. I just think it's kind of boring. What we get into and what most people have a problem with is the next few characters, because this shit is just so ridiculous.
Screen Time is a internet kid taken to its sort of logical conclusion. As a youth, he was exposed to his grandfather's experimental internet gas, and that has patched him permanently into the World Wide Web.
This is where people started to roll their eyes because this shit just gets so fucking dumb. So Screen Time is the result of a teenager being exposed to their grandfather's experimental internet gas. What the fuck is experimental internet gas? Was his grandfather harvesting farts from a Twitch chat shit poster or something and then accidentally released it in the house? That's some of the laziest writing I've seen in a while. Fucking fanfic has better explanations for how a character gets their powers. If you really wanted to make sense of it, why not just have it be like, you know, he was a programmer who made a virtual reality game but accidentally locked himself in it and now he's stuck in there and, you know, caught between the real world and the augmented world. Or even use fucking Wi-Fi if you want. Throw around some like boogeyman Wi-Fi 5G shit maybe. Get the conspiracy theorists all riled up about Screen Time. I don't know, man. But fucking experimental internet gas. Screen Time is a meme-obsessed super teen whose brain became connected to the internet after becoming exposed to his grandfather's experimental internet gas. Still, I mean, that still just sounds so fucking dumb, especially when it's written down like that. His grandfather had internet juice and he accidentally drank from the bottle and now he's stuck in the internet. Now he can see augmented reality and real-time maps and can instantly Google any fact. You know who else can instantly Google any fact? Anyone else in the entire world who has a phone. It's not really a superpower. As you can clearly see, Marvel is struggling to come up with cool superpowers. A meme-obsessed super teen? They created a fucking Redditor. And he's actually worse than a Redditor. His only power to the group is being able to Google things. He's just a fucking cell phone with legs.
Snowflake and Safe Space are the twins, and their names are very similar to Screen Time. It's this idea that these are terms that get thrown around on the internet that they don't see as derogatory, to take those words and kind of wear them as badges of honor. Snowflake is non-binary and goes by they, them. Snowflake has the power to generate individual crystallized snowflake-shaped shurikens.
This is what made people the most upset. Snowflake and Safe Space. Let me preface this by saying I don't think there's anything wrong with Marvel taking this kind of approach to characters or using their comics to make political stances. It's totally within their right to do so, but this is the absolute worst possible way of going about it. Nobody appreciated this, and I fucking looked hard. I went through so many different Twitter threads. I went through the fucking fucking swamp looking for anything I could find for anyone trying to say, good work, Marvel. There wasn't a single fucking person patting Marvel on the back for this shit. From the non-binary community, the vast majority of them felt insulted and embarrassed. They felt like they were being used as a joke by Marvel. And I see why, because this is the first non-binary superhero, and they named them Snowflake. That'd be like if the first homosexual superhero was called Captain Gay. I just can't imagine how they thought that was a good idea. They're not doing anything other than making these caricatures that just seem so out of touch. It's some ridiculous shit. Psychic twins. All twins are psychic, but we're psychic-er. That's such a fucking dumb line to kick it off. Snowflake can materialize snowflake-shaped shuriken. Projectiles for throwing, and Safe Space can materialize pink force fields, but can't inhabit them himself. Reflex only works if he's protecting others. They're hyper-aware of modern culture and optics, and they see their superheroics as a post-ironic meditation of using violence to combat bullying. They're probably streaming this. That's just garbage. Actual fucking garbage. Set aside any personal beliefs or anything, these are just not good characters. The writing is bad. 100%. It's just terrible. It's actually fucking terrible. And they insulted the people that they really wanted to, you know, empower with their characters. It just made it seem like they were turning them into a joke. It's fucking terrible what they've done. They've made the worst cast of characters I've ever seen in comic books. From lazy writing to just being so out of tune and tone deaf. It's absolutely wild. I don't know why they wouldn't just make like an actual interesting character with an interesting superpower that happens to be non-binary, instead of making it something so on the nose like, here's Snowflake and Safe Space. Like, it's so silly. And then the last character is a fucking vampire. B negative is the goth kid. When he was a baby, he got a rogue life-saving blood transfusion, we assume, from Michael Morbius, and now he has a very similar look and very similar vampire powers. B negative ages like a regular person. Or does he? Who gives a fuck? I don't think there was anyone reading about B negative and wondering, you know, on the fucking edge of their seat, how is he aging? I don't think anyone's like, oh, he's going Benjamin Button style. I've gotta know, how's he aging? And he definitely drinks blood. Or does he? Now I'm interested. Yeah, it's just fucking bad. It's terrible. It's actually fucking terrible. And yeah, that's really about it. I don't know what the fuck Marvel's doing. I don't think there's anyone that's, you know, gonna go out there fucking day one launch of the new Warriors and buy these comic books. But who knows, maybe I'm wrong. That's about it. So yeah. Yeah, I just watched the live-action Dragon Ball movie. Don't cry for me, I did it to myself. It really feels like this movie spits in your eyes when you watch it. I've never watched a movie and felt, like, genuinely offended until today. I almost made a goddamn twitlonger about this film. So I'm sure all of you know Dragon Ball Evolution is a 2009 live-action Dragon Ball movie, and it's abominable. And I'd never actually seen it, I'd always just heard how bad it was, and just assumed it couldn't be worse than the live-action Avatar: The Last Airbender movie. But after finishing it, I can absolutely confirm that it is worse.
The first rule is, there are no rules.
I didn't immediately recognize that was a leaf that flew by. I thought someone had thrown a hot dog at Goku's face, like an angry theater-goer throwing tomatoes at the screen or something. I also thought I just completely purchased the wrong movie for a second and just got scammed, because this had nothing to do with Dragon Ball right off rip. The storyline is Piccolo's been sealed away by some ancient curse, and his apprentice, Zaru, was sealed away with him, and now it's all about not letting him be unsealed, but he is unsealed. They don't explain how, but he escaped the seal, and like Gohan, Goku's grandpa says, the first rule is there are no rules, which is a line straight out of Fast and Furious. This suffers from the exact same curse that Avatar: The Last Airbender live action suffered from, where none of the characters look like the characters they're emulating, and nothing in the movie even comes close to anything that happened in the shows.
First one to touch the ground loses.
Yeah, that's a real scene in the movie. This isn't a fan edit. That's the level of visual effects that this movie comes to the table with. That little fly looks like an actual student's first attempt with Adobe After Effects after watching 2 YouTube tutorials on it. It is embarrassing how awful the visuals are here. Now, I will grant them that this movie had a $30 million budget, which by all measures for a theatrical release is pretty low, so they had to make do with what they had. So I'm guessing they just hired a team of high schoolers for CGI. This is probably the most insulting part of the movie. That was airbending. I'm not making this shit up, listen.
I will take you to a secret place where a chosen few were taught to master the energy of the three elements: air, fire, and water. Shadow Crane Strike is the most basic of all the air bending techniques.
I honestly felt like I was being made fun of, like my feelings were hurt just listening to this. They tried to like hijack Avatar, which is poetic because this came out a year before the last Airbender shitstorm, so it's almost like a little foreshadowing for like the impending disaster that would be the last Airbender movie. I just couldn't believe it when I heard this. For some reason they just bring in bending. Inexplicably. I mean, that's not in Dragon Ball. It's not like a crucial part of Dragon Ball. It's not like all of a sudden like Aang comes out of nowhere and kills Vegeta or some shit like that, or makes a wish on the Dragon Balls himself. I don't understand how this even happened. And it makes me put on the tinfoil hat a little bit to get into the conspiracy side of things, where maybe Hollywood was working together to ruin 2 franchises within a year, and they chose Dragon Ball and Avatar.
Promise. Okay, you made me promise not to fight. Then teach me something I can use. Teach me how to get the girl. Teach me how to talk to her without stumbling all over everything I say.
This movie is so shameless they decided to make Goku an insecure high schooler who gets bullied and asks his grandfather for advice on how to get laid. Who do you think your grandpa is? Some kind of alpha male YouTuber giving you the secrets to pussy? It makes no sense why they would even make this decision for the film.
Hey, Fuller, you just wrecked my bike!
Agundis, did you just fart, man? Because I could have swore I just heard something.
Basically, they took Degrassi and slapped Dragon Ball names into it. They just gave us fucking Riverdale with a Dragon Ball skin. Kind of. And you thought the last Airbender movie was a fucking disgrace to the show it was based on.
Don't worry, it won't be a fight.
It'll be a massacre.
He threw a plastic cup. Why did they make a glass-breaking sound effect? Do you think we're all that dumb, huh? We've all seen that plastic cup because it's that same shit they sell in bulk at Target. We all have that cup. We know it doesn't fucking explode like a glass bomb going off.
Missed again.
He gets invited to a party, his bullies are there and they want to beat his ass, but he made a promise not to fight them, but he didn't make a promise not to dodge them and make them fight each other. So he dodges all of their attacks and they end up beating each other's asses instead. And I have to wonder, what high schoolers fight like it's the goddamn Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon? One of them comes in with like a flying drop kick from across the fucking driveway for Goku to dodge. But anyway, he ends up dodging everything, they all hurt themselves, and Chi-Chi was watching and instantly falls in love with him.
Doing good. Hey, Fuller! You got a couple of dings there you might want to try buffing out.
I almost forgot to mention this incredible piece of cinema history. Goku starts breakdancing on the main bully's car, and the bully keeps hitting his car with a pipe while trying to hit Goku. But his moves are too smooth. He hits the meanest head slide of all time, going right across the hood of the bully's car. Bully hits it with a pipe again, breaking it even further. I mean, the resale value is tanked because Goku is so good. And then he dodges 2 bullies' attacks and they hit each other with their pipes. And that's game over, baby. He unleashed the dragon. He went Dragon Ball turbo mode.
I know this may be hard to believe, but we're a lot alike.
This is the best birthday I've ever had.
Goku and Chi-Chi share very spicy interaction here, a lot of flirting, and my god, there is no chemistry between them. It's like chocolate milk and cereal. They just don't go well together. But while they're engaging in this flirting, Goku's grandpa gets murdered by Piccolo. He uses the Force to kill him. Before dying, though, Gohan tells Goku that he needs to find all 7 Dragon Balls and make a wish to banish Piccolo to the Shadow Realm in order to protect the Earth, and that he has to find Master Roshi in order to do it. But then he also meets Bulma.
Who's the idiot? Look at it. Oh my god.
Pretty fucking epic meeting, I will say. And then they manage to track Master Roshi down to a fucking, like, Dr. Seuss house in the middle of a lake outside of a city. But not really outside of a city, it's still like in the city, in a retention pond, basically.
Bulma! Bulma! Bulma, wait!
Looks like I'm the idiot, so I thought that was water when I first watched it, but now that I'm editing it, I realize that it's actually floating above a bunch of shit. So I'm really confused on where this is and how this exists. Even more so now. But yeah, I guess it's not water. I don't exactly know what the fuck this is, but this is where they find him.
I am Muten Roshi, the Invincible!
My grandfather is dead.
An inspired performance as Master Roshi here, honestly, 1-to-1 with the anime. And speaking of 1-to-1, let's take a good look at Piccolo. Amateur cosplayers do a better job of looking like Piccolo than this $30 million budget movie. He looks less like Piccolo and more like the Martian Manhunter going through a phase.
For a pretty thing like you, no problemo.
Thank you. You're a real gentleman.
Yamcha, at your service. I'm gonna need some payment.
They fall into a hole and meet Yamcha. That's it. Also, the actor here is really going hard as Yamcha. It's like going so campy that it becomes like almost self-aware. As if this actor knew the script was so fucking trash that he just wanted to poke fun at it in his own performance. Every single line he delivers is the most outrageously over-the-top and dumb thing I've ever heard from a single character. And I have to feel, like, I really believe that it's on purpose from the actor here.
Wait a minute, is that a Capsule RX 550 Roadster I see down there? Yo, I'll take that!
You're nothing but a low-life bandit.
Yeah, but one with a ladder. Just think it over, cause after the sun comes out, it's gonna be hot, hot, hot. Hot.
You see what I mean? It's not even acting. It's like anti-acting. It's wild. I'm just not gonna bother showing anything from, like, the middle part of the movie. Eventually, Piccolo gets all the Dragon Balls through the most underwhelming and unentertaining means imaginable ever. So I'm doing you a favor, but this is when he's about to summon the dragon, so he gets into, like, a Ginyu Force pose. Like, he fucking T-poses and says, you know, like a prayer or something that Master Roshi interrupts. And you could see, again, the visual effects on full display here. You could feel every goddamn penny of that $30 million budget shining through in this beautiful spectacle.
Is a shell. This is who you are.
This was the big twist. Ozaru, the main bad guy that they needed to stop, not just Piccolo, but Ozaru, turns out to be Goku. He goes great ape form, kind of. I mean, that's how it is in the anime, but here he goes moderate werewolf mode, and then, unfortunately, in his anger and confusion, he kills Master Roshi.
Can you win? Don't let Ozaru destroy the Goku in you.
One one of the saddest deaths in cinema history, I would argue. But luckily, it was just enough to help snap Goku back into himself and out of Ozaru.
The Dragon Ball is mine.
Oh yeah, also Piccolo's sidekick gets shot and killed here. I don't think she ever even got a name. I'm pretty sure they didn't even bother to give this character any identity whatsoever. But she did have the power of shapeshifting because there's a scene where she transforms into Chi-Chi and then they fight each other and then Goku beats the real Chi-Chi's ass by accident. It's not really like an entertaining scene to watch, but saying it out loud makes it sound better than it is.
I am Ozaru. To be at one with myself, I must be two.
Again!
Giant fucking fart effects all over the place. Bingo bango bongo. Goku beats Piccolo in triumphant fashion. And then they wish Master Roshi back from the dead with the Dragon Balls.
Dragon!
Roll credits. Or so you thought. It actually sets itself up for a sequel. Piccolo's not dead. In fact, he's alive. And sleeping. Soundly. Until he wakes up after having an interesting dream, I guess. So maybe we'll still see a Dragon Ball Evolution 2, if we're lucky. This was perhaps one of the worst adaptations of anything of all time. A statement I don't make lightly, especially after seeing the last Airbender movie, and there's countless other examples, but this one might actually be the worst. Even with all of the problems, the endless amount of problems with the last Airbender movie, it at the very least hit some of the story notes that were present in the show. Like some of the locations, some of it. At the very least. But this hits none. It's entirely different and worse in every possible aspect. The Avatar movie had like $100 million budget. It was a huge budget production. This one was $30 million and the visuals really suffer. Like everything is wrong with this movie. Every single component imaginable. It's actually a masterpiece in how awful it is. So yeah, I do think people are right to say that Dragon Ball Evolution is the worst movie adaptation ever, and potentially just one of the general worst movies ever made for the big screen. That's about it. So yeah. I didn't think it was possible for Netflix to sink any lower than the Resident Evil or live-action Cowboy Bebop show, but somehow they found a way to go even further beyond the Super Saiyan 3 of dog shit. Against all the odds, against science and against God himself, Netflix found a way to dig deeper than the deepest pit of hell to announce a show so foul that even Satan weeps. This isn't satire, it's not April Fools. With a straight face, they announced a live-action Yu Yu Hakusho adaptation. They can't keep getting away with it. This has to be a crime at some point. We have to hold them accountable. They are digging up graves and fucking the corpse right in front of us. This one is extremely painful for me because Yu Yu Hakusho is peak anime to me. This was one of, like, the big ones for me growing up. I even still own the goddamn Dark Tournament Saga on DVD. I never even opened it because I cherished it so much. So you can imagine how upset I was when I saw the announcement. This news was sadder than the ending to Marley and Me. I felt like I was losing a friend. Or I guess more like I felt like I was watching a friend being held at gunpoint. And they were like trying to ransom, you know, like, hey, subscribe to Netflix or Yu Yu Hakusho gets it. I'm like, no, please let him go. Just a boy. He doesn't deserve it. It doesn't make any sense why they keep doing this. I don't understand. This is like straight out of SpongeBob. How many times do you have to teach you this lesson, old man? All of Netflix adaptations absolutely blow ass. They're all fucking atrocious. It always ends in failure. The live-action Cowboy Bebop, absolute catastrophe. Resident Evil, more like Degrassi meets The Walking Dead meets The Dumpster, because it was fucking trash. They also have a live-action One Piece around the corner, which I can't really opine on since it hasn't come out, but I can't imagine it's going to be successful, and now a live-action Yu Yu Hakusho. Why? When they adapt these shows, excluding One Piece since that hasn't come out yet, so I don't know for sure, but like Cowboy Bebop and Resident Evil, they are just not faithful. Like they take so much creative liberty that they mutilate the property to something unrecognizable. And they do it proudly. They don't even bother trying to get the characters or the story or even basic elements of it to translate to the live action. So why adapt it in the first place? What do you accomplish there? All you do is piss off the built-in fan base, and you lose interest from people that don't know the franchise because the production here isn't good enough to stand on its own two legs. You borrowed a name from a popular franchise and did a shitty job of adapting it, so you lose that fan base, and since it's a shitty adaptation, you lose people that don't even know the franchise in the first place because it's just bad. I also don't understand why they keep putting anime in their crosshairs here. I feel like the Netflix higher-ups just peruse their teenage daughters' Tumblr pages to see what's popular and base their future projects off that. Oh, it looks like anime is really killing it. Let's just go through like beloved anime and start ruining it. That should work for us. It just doesn't compute. I can't process the thinking here. Historically, all live-action anime adaptations have been horrible, except for like a few. The one that pops into my head right away is Alita Battle Angel, but that was also a $200 million budget over the course of many years to make that masterpiece, and it absolutely slapped. But I promise you, Netflix isn't committing that big nut-busting budget to the live-action Yu Yu Hakusho. They probably committed like 10 grand in a Walgreens membership. Just looking at the picture here, it just looks like someone did a fun Photoshop project that Netflix slapped their logo on. Now there's no trailer to like fully judge it on, but just the concept alone is awful. Yu Yu Hakusho, the anime and manga for that matter, ended over 20 years ago. Why are we doing this now? They also teased what the core cast is going to look like in live action, so you have Yusuke, Kurama, Kuwabara, and Hiei, and it's not even to like cosplay level. And again, that's just the problem with going live action with an anime. You can't really translate an anime character to human beings because then it just looks goofy and silly and it just doesn't usually work. And you know what else isn't working? Netflix in general. Netflix is actually just dwindling in popularity. It's been hemorrhaging subscribers, making terrible business decisions, and the stock plummeted recently, but it's been recovering a bit. But I think that's solely because of Stranger Things, but now once people finish that, what do they have left? What do they have to watch on Netflix now? Fucking nothing. Actual dust. The majority of Netflix catalog just isn't good. And then the majority of shows that Netflix themselves produce just aren't interesting. They're not fun to watch. You'd have more fun taking the SATs again than watching a Netflix original. They have a couple bangers like Stranger Things, but once you finish Stranger Things, what do you have left? A barren wasteland. Netflix is like the Fallout universe of streaming. Just empty apocalyptic nothingness. And then the occasional glimmer of hope with a show like Stranger Things. With a show like The Punisher. God rest its soul, canceled too early. But like they occasionally have some great shows on there, but it's very few and far between, and I really do think that is contributing heavily to people abandoning it. It's starting to throw it to the side. Of course, a lot of it's just a natural loss of subscribers to the service because so many people signed up during COVID lockdowns, but now that lockdowns are over, those people are just starting to cancel things like Netflix since they're just too busy. But I also think a large contributing factor is just a shit catalog. They don't have classic shows anymore because all of the great shows they used to have got poached by other streaming services, and their originals just aren't strong enough to keep anybody hooked on the service. So people just leave it behind. And I really think Netflix is in a downward trajectory here, and hopefully they figure it out, but this is not a good sign if they just announced live-action Yu Yu Hakusho. It demonstrates a clear lack of understanding of the problem. Nobody wants Netflix adaptations of their favorite properties because they ruin it every time. They bastardize it. They parade it through the streets tarred and feathered. By the time Netflix releases the adaptation, what we get is just an insult, a slap in the face. Nobody is asking for Netflix to take properties and adapt them for a Netflix original. And I don't think there's anyone in the world that wants live-action anime. I don't think there's ever really been a huge community of anime enthusiasts that are like, can't wait for the live action, this needs the live action right now. Nobody wants it. Nobody. And yet, for some reason, they keep trying live-action anime. And it looks like they're going to continue to do this till the end of time, until they finally run out of money and scratch their head wondering where it all went wrong, dumping all their budget into a live-action anime adaptation of fucking Gurren Lagann next. You know, it doesn't make sense. And it's upsetting to see that because Netflix is very near and dear to me. Of course, being the first major streaming service that I ever subscribed to. I even got my wiener touched by a girl one time when I was watching VHS horror movies with her. Whatever that series was called. I think it was just called VHS. Netflix used to have all of the goofiest stuff, but also all the best stuff too. Great memories with the platform, and now it's just a shell of what it used to be. There used to be a time not that long ago where pretty much any show you wanted to watch, Netflix would have it. But now, anytime you search for a show like, say, Courage the Cowardly Dog, you'll search it up and it'll say, we know you want Courage, we don't have that shit, that's somewhere else. And you'd be like, okay, so they don't have Courage. And you scratch your chin like, alright, well, how about Adventure Time? I mean, that was like the most popular cartoon back in the mid-2000s, surely they have that. Type it up. Oh, you wanted Adventure Time? No, you're on Netflix, we don't have that, absolutely not. So you throw your hands up, you're desperate, like, oh, fuck, what do they have? How about Friends? What about Friends? I mean, like, every streaming service in the world has Friends. I imagine it's here. You type it in, nope, not here either. It's just baffling how weak the selection is on Netflix. And they also greenlight the most awful ideas ever, like Cuties. Jesus Christ. Like, they actually put on the worst ideas imaginable and put money behind it as a Netflix original. And there is no better example of that than Cuties, which honestly should have had Netflix thoroughly investigated for that shit. Absolutely disgusting. Netflix is just making all of the worst decisions over the last couple years or so, and it doesn't seem like they're getting it at all. Netflix originals are still synonymous with garbage, and they keep raising like the subscription prices, trying to crack down on password sharing, and then they recently sacked their entire animation department. Oh, we're losing money. Probably those fucking animators' fault. For no reason. Like, they don't understand. And it's fucking upsetting. And now they're taking a property that I love, Yu Yu Hakusho, and most likely are going to ruin it. If this show ends up being good, I will be beyond surprised. I will be beyond shocked if this show is even somewhat redeemable, even somewhat enjoyable. I would be elated, honestly. But anyway, I just wanted to talk about this, and that's about it. So yeah. Get excited, because HBO Max finally dropped the trailer for what's sure to be the hottest comedy of 2023. Maybe the best comedy ever. Since human beings have evolved to laugh, giggle, smile, it's all been leading up to this moment where we get to witness pure humor from a show called Velma. This is the latest in this never-ending trend to take beloved IP and change everything about it and create something abominable from it. This follows in the footsteps of the greats that came before it, such as the Halo show, the Resident Evil Netflix show, Witcher Blood Origin. It's got big shoes to fill, but after this trailer, I'm convinced that it might be the worst out of all of them. And you know what that means. I'm going to sit down and waterboard myself with the horrible jokes that this show is going to let rip. I'm going to watch it. Now, of course, you all know Velma is a big character from the Scooby-Doo franchise. She's been around for many decades now, and this is now her standalone adult animated spin-off. And now, I've said this many times in the past, and I'll say it again. I'll scream it from the mountaintops. Taking an IP and then telling your own unique story within that world, or even using the characters in different ways, I always think is totally fine, and I welcome it. I'm always excited to see new interpretations of this work that I like. But there needs to be a level of respect paid to the source material, as well as it making sense for it to exist and justify its own creation here. And Velma, from everything I've seen so far, does the exact opposite. It proudly shits on the Scooby-Doo franchise. It even takes Scooby-Doo completely out of Velma. Scooby-Doo's not here, apparently. So it's about as far from being respectful to the IP as you can possibly get. Now, even before this trailer dropped, Velma was catching more shit than my toilet, and this led to a lot of debate and controversy. People were upset that all of the characters have been completely changed in every possible aspect imaginable, and it didn't help that the first promotional material was Velma proudly, like, insulting fans. So it almost seemed like a two girls, one cup situation where they were just proudly eating the shit. But regardless, when all of this controversy started stirring in this cauldron here, this stew of hostility, a lot of people were just calling everyone who disliked it racist, which I always find to be an extremely scummy thing to do. There's nothing wrong with just asking, why not make this an original cast of characters instead of taking the names of characters that have existed for fucking decades and then changing everything about them. It could have just been an entirely different team set in the Scooby-Doo universe. Like, let's say they didn't call this Velma and they just took all of these same character qualities and everything, and they just had it be a completely different set of mystery solvers in the Scooby-Doo world. You have Scooby-Doo and the crew going around solving mysteries, boofing Scooby snacks in a bathtub, whatever. That's all very family-friendly, and then this follows the more adult crew that's also solving mysteries, maybe a rival of the Mystery Inc. gang. You know, this could be the Murder Master Ass Blasters Detective Force, and they're very, you know, adult-oriented, no-nonsense kind of shit. It's gory, it's bloody, they say bitch, they say ass, tit, fuck. Like, all the things that they're clearly striving for here. Why take all of that and then put it on characters that have already existed for so long? Like, you could have just told something original with these same characters and it would have been totally fine. But regardless of where you stand on this stuff, the biggest problem with Velma is the writing, at least judging by the trailer. If the humor in the trailer is indicative of the quality of the show, they need to fire all of those writers ASAP, cause my god, that shit'll rupture your eardrums from pure fucking cringe. It is miserable. Yeah, so I did want to watch the Velma trailer. I saw clips of this on Twitter. It's about as horrible as I think everyone expected it to be. This is like HBO Max's version of Big Mouth.
Told my way.
She has no brain! Oh, I am not dissing her. She has no brain!
So that's the clip I saw first today. I have to wonder who the fucking audience is. Cause it's supposed to be like an adult cartoon, but that's a joke you'd hear out of like Ed, Edd n Eddy or something. I don't know who this is for. Yeah, this has nothing to do with Scooby-Doo or the characters at all. They have a completely rewritten history, background, everything. They only share a name. And Scooby's not even in this. So it shouldn't even be compared to anything even remotely associated with Scooby-Doo. That's clearly them just slapping this name on it for a cash grab. 100% they're going to have the original cast in the last episode. You're giving them so much credit, Dankin. 0% chance. I'm willing to bet on it. This show, I guarantee, hates Scooby-Doo. The people behind it fucking hated it. They probably were forced to by the network because this IP wouldn't have sold on its own 2 feet. So they were forced to roll with Scooby-Doo. I do not think they will include them. I would normally agree with you because that seems like a pretty predictable thing that they would do, but not for this one. You have to remember their very first trailer was literally shitting on people that like Scooby-Doo, so I just don't see it happening. But I'm willing to be proven wrong. Maybe they will go with the basic one there. But yeah, it's fucking rough.
Starts with a murder, bitch.
Nothing to do with drugs, which I hate.
Hey, Fred.
Do I know you?
It's Velma from school.
I have a disease where I can't recognize people who aren't hot.
Is it called rudeness?
I have an illness!
Hey, Daphne. I need to.
Yeah, yikes, Jesus. I don't think anyone was expecting it to be good, but I also don't know if anyone was expecting it to be this awful either. It really feels like they went to ChatGPT and asked it to generate jokes for it. Setting aside all of like the wild changes for no reason, the actual humor of it is horrible in the trailer. Like, even if you set aside everything else, the actual comedy of it is miserable. Maybe it's better in the actual show and they just chose the worst jokes to get people hype, I don't know, but if nothing else, it can be absolutely destroyed for how awful the writing is.
Danger.
Oh. Whenever I see this, whenever I see like twerking in a show, I know the person who wrote that is like 50 years old. What do kids like? Twerking. What if she does it poorly? Oh, that's good. That's good, yes. Write it down. Please, write it down. That's going to be a hit. Huge.
All our classmates are idiots, so
what a
let's
banger.
assume they're high.
You know what 420 is, right?
Yeah. It's code for adults who still watch cartoons.
I have no doubt that's going to be a hit. I feel it in my bones. Look how excited Kate is. Velma's coming! It premieres tomorrow. They forgot about Scooby-Doo. No, they proudly celebrated that Scooby-Doo won't be in this. So, they took Scooby-Doo out of the Scooby-Doo. Again, if you set aside every dumb decision that they've made with, like, taking Scooby-Doo and just not using anything even remotely associated with it, at the very core, it is so awful with the jokes in this trailer. Maybe the show's better. I highly doubt it. But you bet your sweet bippy I'm gonna watch. We need a moist meter. Oh, I'll moist meter. Oh, I probably won't. This is gonna end up like She-Hulk where I don't finish it. I already know. I have a very difficult time pushing through horrible comedies. So I probably won't finish it. But I will make a very stern effort. It is getting so wild just how frequent they just use IPs and then change every single thing about it. Just don't use the IP. Just make something original. Just make something of your own, and then you don't have to worry about like angry fan backlash. Let's say this wasn't called Velma. If this just didn't even have the name Velma, no one would know this was supposed to be Scooby-Doo. They could have called this High School Blows. Or, you know, and nobody would have known it's Scooby-Doo, and it wouldn't have got nearly as much pushback. But they use these IPs because they think it has a built-in audience. Yeah, I saw that review. There was a scathing review that some people were posting as the synopsis. The review was like there was a big focus on Fred's small penis or something. I think the exact words were, Fred is the personification of white richness and his small penis or something. I don't feel like pulling it up, but yeah, it was a review, not the synopsis. SNL humor. I'm gonna say something I never thought I'd ever utter. SNL humor is better than this trailer. I said it, and I mean it. I'm not exaggerating. It really does feel like every joke in this was something that was like calculated with an algorithm that only studied TikTok and Tumblr trends. You've gone too far. Yeah, that may have been a little too hot, to be honest. Maybe I flew a little close to the sun with that statement. I wasn't even going to bother covering Halo Season 2 because it doesn't seem like most people care about it anymore after how abominable Season 1 was. It was an affront to God that insulted the very technology that gave us the ability to watch moving pictures in the first place. Halo Season 1 was atrocious. So there were very low expectations going into Season 2, but, as I said on stream multiple times, the first 2 episodes I actually thought were going in a pretty good direction. Like, I was impressed. It seemed like they did bring on new people that were familiar with the property, and as I understand it, they did. And you could kind of feel a little bit more passion being put behind this project. However, there were still the remnants from Season 1 that they couldn't just write out, so instead they had to kind of change trajectory with all of these, like, pieces that were grandfathered into Halo Season 2, and I liked what they were doing with characters that were previously super underwhelming. They were putting them in more interesting positions in the overarching story as opposed to these like snooze fest side plots that no one gave a fuck about. But then this show fell back into its old ways, it stumbles, and it just starts going in the worst directions again. Until the season finale, which I actually thought was handled pretty well. There was a lot of really cool shit in the season finale, but then, even still, there was some really stupid shit too. Because it seems like, in this series, the way the plot advances is by characters making really dumb, out-of-character decisions. Like, really fucking, like, everyone happens to be getting pumped full of fucking stupid juice. And they'll just all of a sudden do something dumb, which then advances the plot in a big way. Like, that is something that's happened a couple of times now. But I do think Halo Season 2 is an improvement over Season 1, which of course isn't like the biggest compliment you can give, because that's a pretty low bar, but I am happy with some of the things about it, but overall, again, disappointed, because it's still not good. By no means is Halo Season 2 great or anything. And I wasn't going to talk about this because everyone expected it to be bad anyway. I'm not exactly enlightening anyone here by letting you know that, yep, Halo Season 2 is also bad. But then I saw this Kotaku headline. Halo Season 2 sticks the landing, I told you so. Halo series naysayers, show yourselves because the Paramount Plus show is hitting all the right notes. If those notes are fart sounds, I guess, the sound of like a fucking wet B flat in your trousers. They go on to say that it does everything a video game adaptation should do and then some, and then goes on to say that they've been saying for over a year that the show is good. That is mind-boggling to me. Like, I understand there's differences of opinions, but this opinion is so bad it should be borderline criminal. Like, this is something that should have you undergo like a psychiatric evaluation. What do you mean this is what every video game adaptation should do and then some? How? It doesn't use anything from what it's adapting. It doesn't take anything from the actual source material. It's telling its own fanfic, and it's doing an extremely poor job of it. Halo Season 1, they've been saying they've been talking about this show being good for over a year, meaning they must have enjoyed Season 1. Halo Season 1 is bad, even if you don't know what Halo is. On its own 2 feet, it stumbles and eats shit. Halo Season 1 is just bad television, no matter how you spin it. It is a show that had a huge emphasis on the worst parts of television. For some reason, there was this fixation on showing Master Chief's cheeks, which is what gave it the title of Master Cheeks, because there were so many ass shots of him for no reason. I've already made a video covering everything I think that's wrong with Halo Season 1, so I'm not just going to regurgitate all of those points here. But the point I'm making is that this is not what video game adaptations should be by any means at all. The Halo television series is unrecognizable from the Halo franchise that it's taking from. The only thing they share in common is names and armor. That's it. You're not going to find Master Chief fucking a human that happens to be part of the Covenant, literally steaming her ham in the middle of this war by playing Halo 1 through 3, reading the books, or even, God forbid, playing the 343 Halo games. That is exclusive to just this misguided television show. Now, as I've always said, there's no point in adapting things one-to-one, because what's the point there? You need to take it in different creative directions, but this is so outlandish in the Halo universe that it doesn't have a connection. There's no point in calling it Halo. At least, this is still me talking about Season 1. I ended up focusing on that too hard because of how ridiculous that statement was in this article from Kotaku. And I know Kotaku is on life support right now, just pumping out as much rage bait as they can to try and get as many pity clicks and desperation as they can possibly muster. I get it. They're in their death spiral. But this still, like, even knowing it's rage bait was enough to make me just want to come in here and talk about Season 2 since it wrapped up. Now, going back to this, there is one thing that I do agree with them on. It's this last sentence. Action sequences felt tighter and better choreographed, emotional beats hit when they were supposed to, and the interwoven story threads made for incredibly watchable television. What I agree with from that statement is that last part. Watchable television. That's not the high compliment that the writer thinks it is. Calling something watchable is like the bare minimum. That's like the lowest possible thing you can say. That's like if you're getting bullied and the teacher makes the bully say something nice to you. Like, that is like the tiniest compliment you can give it. And that's what I can say about Season 2, is that it is watchable, and I'd even agree that the action sequences are pretty tight and well choreographed. I do think the action, when it's present in Season 2, is pretty good and interesting. Granted, you still have to suspend disbelief and just accept that everyone on screen's a fucking moron at all times, because even right away, even in the 2 episodes I was praising, there's a scene where the Marines are in a dark tunnel, and there's a Covenant on the other side, and they know there's some danger out there, but instead of turning on their light, they just keep going in like groups of two or three into the darkness to die. Like they're being led by Noah to get on the Ark. 2 by 2, they just go out there and just get fucking slaughtered by the Covenant in the dark without ever turning on their flashlight, which they have. They have the technology to turn on a fucking flashlight and they just don't. Because, fuck you, that's why. It's silly. But again, the action sequences, I do agree, are tight and well choreographed for the most part. Anyway, I'll go ahead and start by saying a few things I think Halo Season 2 does well. And the biggest thing, the big standout here, is Ackerson. Ackerson is a villain that was present in Halo lore before Season 2, and he is played by an actor named Joseph Morgan, who is actually a fan of Halo. And you can feel it through his performance. He does a great job at being the villain. And I think he was a really helpful component of this season to bring in what he knew from Halo to his role. And that really helped elevate it. Ackerson was by far the best part of Season 2, hands down. Another thing I think they did really well is actually Master Chief this season. And not so much the way Master Chief is written, but Pablo Schreiber, I'm not sure how you say his last name, as Master Chief. There are a couple of really great moments with Pablo as Master Chief where I was like, damn, if he just had some better material, a better story to work with, he'd be a great Master Chief. Like, I really bought into him as Master Chief in this season. I was like, damn, this could be the guy. Like, if we had a good Halo show, if we were in, like, the multiverse where there was a good Halo show, and Pablo was spearheading it, that shit would be a banger. I think he really does get it as Master Chief on what that role would require. I do think that in a Halo television show, you can't have him in the armor 100% of the time. In the first season, I was like, man, he should always be in the armor at least 99% of the time. But in Season 2, seeing Pablo as Master Chief out of the armor, I still got that from him. Every scene he was in, even without his armor, which is pretty much the entire show, he's only in his armor twice, pretty much. No, 3 times, actually, I think. And the rest of the time, he's spent just human being. He's just spent as John. And I still felt like, damn, that's the Master Chief. So he did a great job, really, of embodying that character, even outside of the armor. It's just such a shame that it feels like it comes in a losing effort here, because everything else around these two characters is just not good. I mentioned that Season 2 took some of the characters that had these really boring side quests that felt really insignificant to the plot, like Soren, like Quan, and it took these characters and put them into, like, the actual main juice here in Season 2. And I really appreciated that effort, but it didn't seem like they were able to commit to just actually having them as a front and center component of the story. Instead, they're still, like, off on their own little adventures half the time that you just don't care about when you look at the actual meat of this. The Covenant are about to get to the Halo ring. The humans are losing. Reach has fallen. Like, all of these really big things, and then you still have to go watch Quan see ghosts. You have to watch Soren and his wife try and locate their son. Like, that is so underwhelming when put against the big stuff. I'd rather those characters be brought in and contribute to the big stuff as opposed to just kind of being there and then still doing their side quests. Oh, I also did forget to mention one other thing I think they actually do really well. It is a huge spoiler though, so this is your spoiler warning. The Flood. I thought they crushed it with the Flood. I was shocked by how well they did the Flood here, so I won't get into any more detail than that. I won't dive like super deep into spoilers, but I actually thought they handled it really, really well. Impressed with that. But honestly, it actually makes me more upset that there were some good moments here and some like actually very impressive shots, because it showed what could be if the rest of the show could just follow suit. There are some elements here that work pretty well, more so in Season 2 than Season 1 had. Like I said, it is an improvement. And it showed that there is the real capacity to create a great Halo show. But it's just not this. I don't know if there's just too many cooks in the kitchen working on this show or what, but there are some wonderful shots here, and then there is some stinky shots here. There's some good writing here, like with Ackerson and even some of Master Chief's lines, and then there's some terrible writing here, like with some of Kai's lines, and I'm not going to get too deep into spoiler territory, but some other horrible writing choices. There's nonsensical plot holes that are present and never addressed. It's just such a mixed bag. It seems like there are people on board this team that get it and can deliver great Halo content on the television screen. But there's just too many other moving parts behind the scenes that overwhelm that and lead to what you ultimately get here, which is an unsatisfactory season of Halo yet again. Even with all this said, I do think with the finale of Season 2, if there is a Season 3 of Halo, it's actually in a good spot to pick up and be entertaining and actually be pretty solid. I think if there is a Season 3, if they can just dial in on what worked for Season 2 and take it from where the finale ends on their high notes, we might actually see the first good season of Halo. I don't know if there's going to be a Season 3 or not. I don't think it's fully confirmed. It's mainly still speculation right now. But yeah, I guess maybe I'm just being overly optimistic, but it's just there were some good moments here, and I just hate that it's still overall not good. Like, it's still bad. I don't think it's worth watching. Like, I don't think by any stretch of imagination Halo Season 2 redeems this show and it makes it worth the slog of getting through it. It's not. But Season 3 of this show could be decent with where it's at the moment. Anyway, though, maybe I'll get into like more spoiler-heavy stuff about all of the things I dislike about Season 2 on stream or something. But I won't do it here because I know people don't like to hear spoilers and all of that during these things, so I'll just leave it there and I won't continue ranting about it anymore. That's really about it. So yeah. I have a plate of spaghetti in front of me. Beetlejuice is the best sequel ever made. One of these two statements is a lie. Which one do you think it is? I'll tell you it's not the spaghetti. But Beetlejuice is not the worst sequel ever made. And I think instead of doing moist meters, I'm just going to keep doing this format where I just tell you if a video game is worth buying or a movie or TV show is worth seeing. So I just got back from Beetlejuice, and overall I think it's alright. Like, I don't think it's amazing, I don't think it's bad, I think it's just good. I also rewatched the first Beetlejuice yesterday. So it's fresh in my noodle here, so I can immediately remember everything and recall everything and pick up on all of the little Easter eggs they dropped to have me going at the screen like I just saw Glup Shitto. So I have it all fresh up here, and I can confidently say that fans of the original will be satisfied with the sequel, but they're probably not going to put it on the same level as the original. It's probably going to be something that some people will be enthusiastic about, sure, but it's always going to be like, yeah, but it wasn't as good as the original, because it's not. I do appreciate, though, for the sequel that they didn't just try and ride the same horse again. It tried to carve its own path and give more lore to the universe that was built in Beetlejuice, which is cool. I like to see them flesh that out. But it just didn't always work. So, I'm going to get into spoilers. I'm not going to, like, spoil the whole thing, but there are things I want to talk about that I think are massive shortcomings of this film that I can't just vaguely beat around the bush with. I gotta fucking dive headfirst into that bush. But I'll kick it off with positives. I think the visual style and the practical effects look great in this film. I love the style of it, and it really captures that same magical feeling that the first one has. And we see a lot more of Beetlejuice himself, which is great, because Michael Keaton kills it. He is the best part of this movie, hands down. Now, in the original Beetlejuice, he was also a show stealer there, but he really wasn't on screen that much. He was like the smallest part of that movie. In this film, they gave us a lot more of that, but it never felt like exhausting. It was always so much fun when Beetlejuice came on screen. And the film's very creative with a lot of the dead people that you see in the afterlife, and it introduces Willem Dafoe's character, who's this cop, kind of, and they have like this whole like rural police force that basically act as hall monitors, but they're armed. So that, you know, the mall security there of the afterlife plays a bit of a role, and they're cool. And I just love the music in this movie, especially the intro. It has pretty much the exact same intro as the original Beetlejuice and a very similar sounding track. I think it might even be the exact same one, but it's so good. It sounds like something out of Banjo-Kazooie. You got like the French horn going off, you got like a tuba going off, maybe even a bassoon and a penny whistle. Just old school horror-esque vibe to the score that worked so well. It had me in my seat doing little banjo impressions going, "Guh?" It's just so good. So I really like the music here. And now let's get to my criticisms of the film, and there's quite a bit. Also, one more thing that I do want to highlight as a positive. I think Jenna Ortega did a great job in this. I know a lot of people were skeptical of her playing in this movie, but I think she did really well. So, let's talk about the plot threads that this movie introduces and kind of loses its footing on. Like my butt, it starts to stink. They introduce a lot of things happening at once, a lot of moving parts. There's a ton of characters doing a ton of different things. And some of the things they're doing are completely worthless and just feel like filler arcs that don't contribute to the plot at all. And a lot of these threads, when they reach their conclusion, it is extremely underwhelming to the point where I had to wonder if just like 10 or 15 scenes were just cut from this movie to save budget or time, because it is just abruptly ending some of these things that they spend a long time building up. Let's start with Willem Dafoe's character. So he plays a cop that is investigating a series of murders in the afterlife. And through his investigation, he's starting to piece things together, and ultimately he just does nothing. He's a really entertaining character, and I'm a big Willem Dafoe fan, but if you edited his character out of this movie, nothing changes. The movie progresses exactly the same. It honestly felt like this whole movie was filmed without him there, but then he like replied to a letter that was sent to him 2 years ago saying, yeah, I'd love to be in the Tim Burton film. And they're like, oh fuck, well we don't want to miss this opportunity. So they just gave him a role after the fact that only like loosely ties into it, but never directly interacts with it. Even at the end of the movie, where it really seems like, you know, everything's popping off now, this is the perfect time for Willem Dafoe's character and all of the, you know, police force, like the Turbo Power Rangers, it's their time to do something, they don't. They just get locked in stasis. So he actually does nothing. What was the point? Yeah, his scenes were entertaining, but if they don't actually contribute to anything, they're kind of just worthless in the context of the film. You could get the same effect by just jump cutting to me doing a I got your nose bit or telling the board burgers joke doing armpit farts. Like, it doesn't actually progress anything in the movie, and it doesn't even really interact with anyone or anything in the movie. And I feel the same way about Monica Bellucci's character, which is the soul-sucking woman. She's introduced immediately as this huge threat. I thought this was going to be the main villain that would be the catalyst for everything that was going to happen. She's able to kill the already dead by sucking their soul like it's Luigi's Mansion. And what ends up happening is nothing. She does nothing. There's a couple of scenes where she contributes a little bit of lore to the backstory of Beetlejuice, but it's not her doing it. Beetlejuice is afraid of her and kind of just exposition dumping about his relationship to her in the past. So her presence in the movie gives us a little backstory on Beetlejuice, but she doesn't actually ever interact with this movie at all. Again, if you edited her character out of this film, everything plays out almost exactly the same. I have a conspiracy theory that nobody on set aside from Tim Burton ever even knew Monica Bellucci was in this movie until the very end. I think she only showed up to the set with the core cast members one day out of the entire filming period, because throughout this entire movie, she doesn't interact with, share a room with, or even share like the general space of any of the characters that we follow. She is always isolated to her own side missions, like her own side quest. It's not till like the last 5 minutes of the movie where she shows up, everyone just gasps like, ah, who is that? And then she's immediately exterminated. She just gets like fucking one-tapped. It's so underwhelming. It just... What was the point? Again, like, she didn't even need to be in the movie because she doesn't contribute to the plot. The movie plays out almost exactly the same without her presence. Like, because Beetlejuice, the reason he gets brought back into this is because of a death in the family, and Lydia goes back to the original ghost house, and Beetlejuice notices this and takes this opportunity to try and capitalize off of it. And some more shit pops off, and it leads to them needing Beetlejuice to help them out of a tight squeeze. But that pickle that the Dietz family found themselves in would have happened without the soul sucker ever returning and threatening Beetlejuice, because it doesn't have anything to do with anything. It's just like this moving part that we tune into occasionally. And then there's another one where Jenna Ortega has met this guy, and they, you know, start to fall in love, and then shit goes south, and then immediately everything gets resolved in, I shit you not, maybe 10 seconds. Like, after what happened is revealed and the mystery put together, it gets solved in 10 seconds and then never referenced again. Like, it's so weird because there's a lot of moving parts, but they don't actually follow through on any of them in a satisfying way. It's all just so lackluster. It just feels like kind of a waste of time to have followed those other storylines, and it would have been better served just focusing more on like one story thread to follow through. Like, I'm not saying they should have just emulated the original. I like that they didn't, but Beetlejuice is a really simple movie, and I think it benefited greatly from that. This is really convoluted and messy. Well, messy's not even the right word because it's not hard to follow or anything. It just becomes a question of why are we following this, because it doesn't actually matter. Like, Jenna Ortega and that boy, that plot thread actually does matter. That is the main reason why Beetlejuice gets brought into the fold with Lydia. However, that plot thread gets solved in 10 seconds and just introduces us to this next problem. But they could have done a lot more with what they were building up there, because they were building up a lot with that. They even gave some backstory on it too, only to just immediately get rid of it. It feels underwhelming. The movie itself, though, is not bad by any means. I was entertained. I enjoyed it. It's just not great either. Also, I have to mention this. There's a couple moments in this film where they try to do something the original did, and it falls kind of flat in my opinion. Like, there's some iconic moments from the first one that they try and emulate to a certain degree in this film and pay homage to them, but it just feels so uninspired. It's like, I can't find the right word for it. Like, they're not bad scenes or anything, and it's very clearly trying to, you know, be like, hey, remember this in the original? Like, here it is, and, you know, we're doing it in 2024, and it's just not as good. It just feels kind of off. Like, I don't hate that they did those couple of scenes, but I just wish they were better. Overall, though, I think Michael Keaton does a lot of heavy lifting in this film. He starts to carry it on his back from time to time, because even when things start to really drop off on those plot lines that abruptly end or don't contribute to the overall plot, you'll have Beetlejuice come in and just liven it up, bring some fresh energy and make you giggle a little bit, and that really helps. Michael Keaton is extremely good in this movie. Not every joke lands, but the ones that do, I appreciated. Like, I had a good time with it. It's just a bit of a bummer that the film wasn't better, especially given how long it's been since the first one. These legacy sequels almost never work out, and this one's better than some, for sure, but it's still just not amazing either. Overall, though, I'd say it's probably worth watching if you really like the first Beetlejuice movie. If you didn't like the first Beetlejuice movie, you're not going to like this one, I imagine. But if you are a fan of the original, I think you'll at least walk away being entertained. Like, I don't think you're going to be let down and, you know, inconsolable over how they ruined it or anything, because I don't think they ruined it. It's just not as good as it could have been, and it's very hard to compete with something as, like, timeless as the original Beetlejuice. So, yeah, that's really about it. See ya.